Alright, let's take a look at page 244 in your math book. This lesson is called percent of change. Okay, so in your notes, let's write this. Percent of change. Percent of change. And percent of change is a pretty simple concept. In other words, what that means is the amount that it changed, amount of change over the original amount. Okay, so percent of change can simply be written as a fraction of the amount of change over the original amount. And this is simply talking about a scenario. So, on page 244, let's take a look, first of all, at number 4. Okay, this is what we call a percent increase. Excuse the horrible handwriting. Alright, so percent increase. Now, if you notice that this is not specifically talking about the percent of change. Okay, so let's make sure we're paying attention to the verbiage there. So, on number 4, where it says 8 meters increased by 25%. So, 8 meters increased by 25%. Alright. Well, if we think about this, okay, 8 meters increased by 25%, what that means is we're, first of all, going to have to try to find 25% of 8 meters because it increased by that much. So, 2 ways to do it. One we worked on last week was using proportions. The other way would be to use the percent formula. And so, if I remember right, a lot of you are more comfortable with the proportions, so let's just do it that way. So if we have 25 out of 100, remember we're finding 25% of 8, 8 being the entire amount. We can set that up like that. We're going to cross multiply. 100 times x is 100x, and 8 times 25 is 200. Okay. Now remember we're trying to get x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by whatever's next to that variable, so 100 in this case. These hundreds cancel out, so we're left with x equals 200 divided by 100 is 2. Okay, so the increase is 2 meters. All right, and so if you read the directions, it says find the new amount. Our old amount was 8 meters, and it increased by 2 meters. 8 meters plus 2 meters gives us 10 meters. So our new amount would be 10 meters. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Fierces to pause this, and I want you to try number 5. Alright, hopefully you've had enough time to try that one. So 15 liters increased by 60%. First thing we're going to have to do is find 60%, or yes, 60% of 15. So we'd go 60% of 15. 15 being the entire amount, we cross multiply. 100 times x is 100x. And 60 times 15 gives us 900. So we divide both sides by 100. And x equals 9. 900 divided by 100 is 9. So the increase is 9. So it's asking us to find the new amount. So we take that 15 liters plus the 9 liters, and we get a total of 24 liters. Alright, let's take a look at number 6. 6 is going to be a little bit different. 6, it says 50 points is decreased by 26%. Okay, So it's going to be the same process as before. First of all, we're still going to have to find 26% of 50. 26 out of 100 equals x over 50. 100 times x gives me 100x. 26 times 50 is 1300. Yes, I just used a calculator. Alright, and so to solve for this, I'm going to divide on both sides by 100, and x equals 13. So the decrease this time, notice it's not an increase, the decrease was 13. So to find the new amount, all we're going to do is take our original amount, 50, and subtract how much it decreased by. So 50 minus 13, which gives us 37. So the new total is 37 points. Alright. And Mrs. Fiercetos again is going to pause this video. And now I want you guys to try number 7. Alright, so let's take a look at this one. The first step, finding 32% of 25. So 32 over 100 equals x over 25. 100 times x is 100x. 25 times 32 is 800. Okay, we divide both sides by 100. And x equals 8. And so if we look at to find the decrease, that'd be our original amount of 25. Subtract 8. And 25 minus 8 is 17. So our new answer would be 17 penalties. Alright, so now we get into the percent of change. Number 8 says identify the percent of change as increase or decrease. If you look at those words, increase or decrease, all that means is if the new amount is higher than the original amount, it's an increase. If the new amount is lower, obviously it's a decrease. So after we identify whether it's an increase or a decrease, what we're going to do is find the percent of change. Okay, and if you remember that was the amount of change over the original amount. So on number 8, we went from 12 inches, and our new amount is 36 inches. Alright, so again, if you remember, it's the amount change, we'll make it past tense, over the original amount. So the amount changed, what we have to do is we have to take that 36 and subtract it by the original amount, so 36 minus 12, and it's going to be over the original amount. The original amount is here. We started with 12, that's our original amount. So if we go 36 minus 12, we get 24. And then we just keep that denominator of 12. And now what a lot of kids think is, well, 24 divided by 12 is 2. So we have a 2% increase. And I will say not quite, because 2 is actually the decimal format of that percent. Even though it's not a decimal, it's the decimal form. So we take this 2 here, draw an arrow so you can see where I'm getting that 2 from. 2, and to make it a percent, we simply multiply it by 100 to get 200%. Okay, so our actual answer is here to 200%. And if you read the directions, we have to identify if it's an increase or a decrease. Alright, so I'll put a little semicolon here. If you think about it, it started at 12, went to 36, so that means it is going up, which would be an increase. I will just use an I for increase. Alright, let's do number 9, and I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. 9, we have 75 people. And unfortunately now we only have 25 people. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to find out how much it changed over the original amount. Okay, so it'll be 75 minus 25. over the original amount, which this time, if you remember, is 75. Alright, so if we go 75 minus 25, that's 50. 50 over 75. Now if you do this on a calculator, you'll get 0 and 6/10 repeating. And that's the decimal format of our answer. So what we're going to do is take that decimal, 0.6, make it a percent by multiplying it by 100. And that's going to give us 66.6 repeating percent. And now we have to think about if this is an increase or a decrease. So it went from 75 down to 25, so it's a decrease. So I'd put D. So make sure, again, our answer needs to be two answers here, the percent, and also if it's an increase, I, or decrease, D. So do me a favor, try numbers 10 and 11. All right, hopefully that went well for you. On number 10, that was a decrease of 30%. And on number 11, that was an increase of 225%. Alright, so hopefully you did well on those. And now, if you will, go ahead and find your practice. It's on MathSpace. It's called MathSpace 6.5. Good luck.